Welcome to Greenplum Summit 2020, the reimagined digital customer conference. My name is Jacques Eistock, and my first guest is Derek Comingore. Derek's here today to talk about ETL in the wild. Derek's been working directly with enterprises around the world his entire career, and I'd love to hear the stories from him about the many challenges they face and how they each uniquely solve them. So Derek, tell us more.
Thank you, Jock, and good morning. So today I want to take a little bit of time with you and share about ETL in the wild, and more specifically, how Greenplum enables us to solve a very consistent and common business problem for the enterprise. All right, so data is everywhere today. And if there's one constant we know in the enterprise, it's that change is inevitable. There will always be change in all of our data landscapes and infrastructures. And it's just a natural part of progression, right? With life, with land, with data architectures, all of it. And so today you may have, for example, MySQL, and tomorrow you may have perhaps Postgres. Last year, maybe you had more ETL, traditional batch workloads. Today, perhaps you are going more towards Kafka and streaming. So the point is, data is everywhere. It's large and small. It's both structured and unstructured, just like Divya mentioned earlier. And to connect the dots with something Jock mentioned as well, the data landscape is massive. When you look at that slide Jock had up a moment ago with all the companies and all the logos, there is a ton of product out there. And how do you harness all that ultimately to grow the business and the value contributing to the business? I'm going to leave the business problem and challenge with you just for a few moments while I take you through PXF and the standard load process. And by the way, a fictitious sample query pattern where you'll see me join some heterogeneous data across the enterprise. So first off, how do we load in parallel, or how do we load rather into Greenplum? Well, we do it in parallel, first and foremost. We take advantage of all the segments and all the hosts, i.e. all the hardware and all of the infrastructure that we have available to us. So again, whether it's Kubernetes or it's bare metal or it's cloud, public cloud, we fully utilize all of the infrastructure that we have access to through Greenplum database. We ingest all of that data in parallel. And by the way, that includes Talons, Spring Cloud Dataflow, Data Stage, Informatica, etc. The list goes on and on of all the products that we support. And once the data is in Greenplum database, again, something else that Divya mentioned earlier I want to capitalize on here with you, is then we can take all these different modules of analytics and we can bring insights to bear through the same core set of data, just through different analytic modules, whether it be something like, say, GP Text or Madlib or PL Python or PLR. You have all these capabilities without going outside of Greenplum. And last but certainly not least is the great native and third-party support we enjoy through the visualization and query tool sets, as well as the administration tooling equally. So things like MicroStrategy, Excel, Tableau, Table Plus, and PG Admin, for example, on the admin side. All right, so you know that we can do ETL. And by the way, that also includes ELT. But what about Federated Query? And that's what people really need, is you need the ability, more specifically, the ability to light up either one of these capabilities for the right workload with one tool, with one database. And again, because the infrastructure is already sprawling in your enterprise today, the last thing you want to do is continue to add more tools in your bag. So the ability to take advantage of our great parallel ETL support when it makes good sense to do so, but likewise take advantage of Federated Query when you want to be able to have rapid access in real time with minimal transformations. This really enables you to take advantage of both sets of capabilities when it's the right fit for your specific workload. So now that you have a little bit better grasp on the capabilities of Greenplum database, what are people really doing today in the real world with these features? And certainly, I'm just going to go right to left. Certainly, Hadoop integration is very popular and common in our customers, and for good reason, because people purchased Hadoop at the time for a very cheap and deep storage value proposition. There was lots of batch and bulk data going on, operationally speaking, in these Hadoop clusters. But what they came to find out and learned about these clusters and the requirements that really drove their initial purchase was that the enterprise really wanted a massive amount of data available to a much more interactive and real-time-ish query capability. What they really didn't need is just more very slow and batch-like operations. And so what came to pass is you have all these frameworks certainly that came along to try to help minimize some of that pain. But in parallel to all of that engineering work, Greenplum continued to enjoy and still does enjoy to this day with ongoing investments, still making it better and better, where you have a very rich, in parallel, I should be clear, bidirectional transfer between Hadoop data lakes and Greenplum database. And by the way, it's not just read, but it's write too. So you have bidirectional parallelization between these clusters that are very common to be together in our customer environments. Moving on, Spark integration. Spark is part of the answer as well, to where folks were trying and still are trying to get better value and ultimately capabilities out of their Hadoop investments. Our ability to integrate with Spark is paramount and key, and we enjoy that capability, and our customers enjoy that already today as well. And last but certainly not least is streaming. The ability in real time to asynchronously take a topic of data and consume it in a very asynchronous, decoupled fashion like every other consumer in a Kafka topology. Now, all of this infrastructure and capabilities are built on a rich stack that starts with Greenplum reference architecture, which is our key infrastructure offerings. And on top of that, we lay down Greenplum database. And then, as Divya mentioned earlier, we have the PXF connector and framework, we have the Spark connector, and we have the Greenplum streaming server. So what does this look like in the real world? This is a nice couple slides. I'm just going to have a few minutes with you to share about what it looks like in terms of how easy use, simplicity. So with that, here is Table Plus querying Greenplum database. It's native. This is a table we're starting off the exercise with for a CRM enterprise software company. And Dave needs to do some drill-in analysis on sales performance, because like any company, we want sales performance to continue to be good, and we need to look at what's driving good business and replicate it in other regions of the world. So to do that exercise, he needs to correlate data from different parts of the enterprise. To begin that, we have a simple distributed table that has the sales team hierarchy in it, and this is Table Plus. And by the way, you may notice through the next two slides that follow, we are using a different GUI and UI on every one of these just to showcase how easy it is to plug in Greenplum and all of these different tools out there in the market today. So no matter if your company standardizes on PG Admin, for example, or Table Plus, which is a really nice newer tool for the Mac users specifically, it doesn't matter is the point. We plug into all of it. Okay, so this is the first data integration part of the sample scenario here. So we're going to create an external PXF table that reaches out into Hadoop, into just a basic Hadoop HDFS data lake, and we're going to return some data in parallel. That's a text file in this case, and it has, in this case, it has revenue information or sales performance information in it. So we can correlate off of location is the key here, or the key dimension of joining. We can correlate the sales revenue to the locale. And so that's what Dave does. He creates an external table. The DDL is right there in front of you. And in this case, we are leveraging PG Admin. We submit the co-located joining query, and we return the resulting data set. All right, to round us out on this example, we end with the web external table. So I wanted to mention today and share with you a web external table because it is a phenomenal capability in the product that many times people just don't often even know is in there, honestly and transparently. So the ability to take a web external table DDL statement and point it at literally anything, including a terminal even, command prompt, it gives you massive flexibility and capabilities. So to demonstrate this, we have a web external table. It's pointing to an external CSV file. In this case, the CSV file contains the number of booked accounts. So now Dave has booked accounts to revenue to locale into sales hierarchy, and he pulls it back with a simple inner join you see down there in the detailed screenshot. And in this case, of course, we're leveraging a different tool, which is dbeaver. Okay, so that concludes the sample query scenario of just doing a little bit. That was a tiny fraction of what you're able to do in Greenplum with PXF streaming server, web external tables, all of these data integration capabilities, including Spark integration too, by the way. So now going back to the business problem at hand, you know your data landscape's going to evolve. There's no question there. The only question really is how do you minimize the change in terms of pain to the business, and how do you continue to provide business insights and advanced analytics while you continue to evolve all that infrastructure going on? And this slide is an answer to such a challenge and dilemma. So today you may have, for example, reading left to right with you, you may have, and these are just randomly picked product names for to be clear, but you might have MySQL, Hadoop, and Talend. Tomorrow, or in reality, maybe next year, you end up having Postgres, Spark, and Kafka. And how do you provide a consistent visualization point of access, a consistent pane of glass for all of your analytics, regardless of where they come from in the enterprise? And the answer, of course, is Greenplum is able to do all of it for you as a single point with all the analytic modules wrapped around that. So I've just listed a few, excuse me, but certainly SQL, MATLAB, R, Python, GPText, it's all there for you. Whether the data is optionally persisted in Greenplum, or you simply chose to continue to read it only, in parallel read it from the source systems, doing the federated query approach. And you can, of course, correlate all of those capabilities and permutations as well. And then finally, as noted before, you have all of the great native and third-party tooling support, tools such as Excel, MicroStrategy, Tableau, and then going back down into the administrator space, Table Plus, Squirrel SQL, dbeaver. And ultimately, by the way, as long as your product or tool supports ODBC, JDBC, and even OLEDB, we have a way to support and integrate with your standard tools. So with that, I just want to wrap up a little bit here, and then I'll turn it back to you, Jock. In summary, Greenplum ETL capabilities consist of standard parallel ingest and load, streaming ingest through the Greenplum streaming server, Apache Spark integration, so where you can get those rich insights being created over the constant iteration in the RDDs, and you can move them across with Greenplum. And then last but not least, certainly, is Federated Query. And Federated Query, to drill down on that again, just for now as a summary with you, it gives you a single interface for all of your query and visualization tools. It provides the option, this is what's key, is the option of data persistence. You do not have to persist the data in Greenplum. And it gives you zero latency. So the latency that is always inherent when you move data from a data source to, say, a data warehouse, you can fully eliminate that with Federated Query. In terms of next steps, I would highly encourage you, if you're not already a customer today, check out our open source site, greenplum.org. You can go to our network Pivotal.io, which has the commercial downloads. And then the docs are very good. So to be clear, this is all open source based products. And I know a lot of folks out there have challenges at times with the documentation on some of these products. I will tell you that Greenplum's documentation is very good. And I think you'll find others in the community would agree with that sentiment. So I hope you enjoy the remaining sessions. They're going to provide even more details on all these great capabilities. And thank you for your time. Jock, thank you.
Thank you, Derek. That was awesome. Thinking about how Greenplum can solve problems based on real problems that you've seen out at enterprise customers is always a little bit inspiring for me. So it was super cool. And hopefully that sets the stage for some of the deeper dives that we're about to go into.